All right, I'm going to show you guys how to build or assemble one of these Prevost window awning arms for a Prevost motor coach after you've 3D printed it. You're going to need, obviously, the four 3D printed parts, a 10 by 24 stainless steel screw for the end, two of the springs I've listed in the parts list in the thingiverse post, three of the roll pins that I called out for in the thingiverse post, and two of the BBs. So I'm going to put these parts out of the way to start with. This is done in real time, so you can see how much work is involved in assembling one of these. Tools you'll need: a set of pliers, or needle nose pliers rather, to break off some of the support structure. I have a round file. It's just a circular based file used to help fit the parts together more cleanly. And then just a standard metal file for getting some of the printing errors off of the parts. And what do I mean by that? So if you look closely here at this piece, you'll get some greeblies sometimes on the side of the print. Parts that interfere with each other or are supposed to fit together, and I'll show that in a bit, sometimes have some greeblies on the side. And a file very quickly can just kind of make quick work of that. It does make the finish not look very great, but it makes the part much more usable, and at the end of the day, that is what is most important with what we're trying to achieve here. So we'll come back to that, but you get the idea. All right, so first thing I do is kind of remove the supports. I recommend building these with a raft. PETG is very sticky. It's great UV resistance, and it's a very strong plastic. But the raft helps allow you to build this up without ruining the base that needs to fit nicely with subsequent parts. So the support is essential to get the arch up here working great. I tried to get it to print without the need for support, but the hole that it prints inside this part for the spring and the BB, I just found it was much more successful when I printed with supports. The trouble with PETG supports is they can be quite difficult, as you can see, to break off. So you just kind of work through this. Careful you don't kind of get yourself with the tips of the needle nose pliers. Reach through and tear out all the support material. So this will take a little while. Once you get it far enough down, you might be able to break the inner support out like I just did, and you can pull it off, and that should clear out the roll pin hole, as you can see. Now, weirdly, when I did this, usually this doesn't happen at all. I don't know if you'll be able to get an angle on this. There's a hole printed into the middle here for the spring and the BB. 9 times out of 10, that won't be visible. It'll just be a broken off support. And I used the tip of this very sharp round file to kind of get a hole started inside the hole that I can then use a drill to drill out. Now, if you're doing this, be careful. You don't want to get yourself. This is a number 10 drill bit. And all I'm trying to do is get the support out. I'm not pressing very hard. I'm not pushing very hard. I'm not trying to drive this up into the part. I'm just clearing out the print support, and that's it. Now, once you've cleared that out, you can see there's an arch here, and I arched it to make this part a lot stronger. When it was squared off like the original, it was very easy for these tabs to break. Even on the original, it was very easy to break the tabs. So I converted the design to this arch because it gave it instead of a shear line, it made it much stronger. Now what I like to do, and you kind of have to do to make this work right, is there's still a lot of build material kind of scruffiness on top here. So I use a file to get all of that off. Now, you got to file enough to get any evidence of the raft that you printed it on also off. And the reason for that is we need the clearance for this to fit right. So don't overdo it. Just get it to where it looks like an even finish on top. And then take the file and kind of go after the arch piece here. I don't know if you can see how that's kind of arched. A rounded off corner. Get those to look halfway clean. And then you can come through and just kind of hit the edge to clean off the edge piece. So there shouldn't be anything sharp. This is when I generally feel the part, and as I started earlier, you know, I'll get off some of the greeblies that sometimes happen on the outside edge of a printed part. Circular motions work well, but the idea is just make it smooth and nice to fit, nice feel in your hands. I also go into the tongue portion of the tongue and groove assembly, and I just hit this a few times just to make sure there's no plastic pieces that would interfere with the fit. Not pressing super hard, just enough to kind of clear it off. Then I'll just kind of hit the top where the socket is for the BB. Just try to clean it up. Lastly, what I'll do is there'll be material jammed in the hole after you do the drill bit. You have to drill out the hole here. I will go through and just file out the sides a little bit just to smooth it up. And then I'll take my round file and I'll file the arched section here just to clean it up. So that's the first piece. That's one of the middle segments. And you have to repeat on all the others. So I'm not going to talk much during this section. I've already covered it. I'll just show you the same steps over again. Now you can fast forward. I'm going to leave it in so people can see the amount of time it takes. But you can fast forward to a later section to get kind of past this. I'll finish up with the top piece. So you can fast forward when you see that being worked. It is a good idea to have needle nose pliers that will fit down into the groove and not interfere with the groove when you're trying to pry out pieces, which could then weaken or break off the sides of the groove. And like I said, this can be quite difficult, so don't get discouraged. There are times when it's kind of easy, and there's times where it's just, I'm never going to get it out of there. But you just kind of keep working at it. All right, so there's a case where the hole's kind of not really visible all that well. Poke a hole down in it to help aid the drill bit going straight in. start filing. The end piece doesn't have a tongue and groove. Well, it doesn't have a groove, rather, section to work out. And if you're careful, sometimes you can get that piece off without a hole. I failed there. So this is where you have to apply quite a bit of pressure to kind of file off the raft. Sometimes the raft will break off like it just did there fairly easily, and then all you're trying to do is, once you see kind of a relatively smooth surface, you're just trying to clean that up. Once again, check the sides for any, call it greenies sticking out that won't feel nice in the hand. You might want to wear a mask. There's quite a bit of plastic dust that pops out of this, but I found it to be relatively heavy and it doesn't seem to get very airborne. And then on to the last piece. So this piece is the hardest usually because you just don't have a lot of leverage. There's not any length to it. So once again, you try to break off the raft as completely as possible because it'll make your job a heck of a lot easier. And I'm failing at getting the whole thing off. That's quite common. I found it's easiest to go into the support. Well, there's a reason for wearing glasses. I just got whacked in the eyeball with a chunk of plastic. Now, there is no hole for a spring because there is no BB and spring in the end piece here. This is the part that actually mounts to the awning window in the coach. apologize for my grunting. It does take some effort to get these supports out. All right, so as you can see, there's no hole. I don't know if you can see that. There's no hole in the groove section for this piece, but you do have to continue filing. Okay, so once you believe you've gotten all of the post-processing raft and support material off, let's wipe this stuff out of the way, you can start the assembly. Now, what I do is I start with the end piece, this piece, that doesn't have the groove on one end. Take one of the middle segments, and you want the two arched pieces to be in alignment with each other. So there's the arched piece here and the arched piece here. And you fit them together. Now, when you get it right, what you're looking for, and this can be hard to get, I'll move that out of the way. You're looking for the hole for the roll pin to align completely. Now, when this is done right, there is a space between this segment and this segment along this line here. You want there to be, you know, a 32nd of an inch gap there. And you can see I can fit this narrow file straight through. Don't file the inside of this hole. It does not need to be reamed. It will press fit just fine with the roll pin. It's printed to fit. You're looking for, you can kind of see it there. I don't know if it'll show up on camera, but you can see the gap right there between the two pieces. Now what you don't want is a big gap at the top of this arch. So you want to be able to file this down to see if you can get the top of that arch piece to fit kind of nicely into that. Once you've gotten that, and you're confident that the roll pin will slide straight through without too much interference, you're done fitting these two parts as far as filing is concerned. Now, for assembly, you need to take one of the springs. I like to use my needle nose plier to hold it, and you'll fit it down into that hole that you drilled. Compress it a few times with the needle nose pliers. Now, what you're looking for is for the spring to be about halfway down between the tongue and groove. This is sitting a little high. So I'm gonna take my drill and I might apply just a tiny bit of pressure. You'll see material come out of the hole pretty quickly. You don't want to apply too much pressure, just enough to maybe get a 1/16 of an inch deeper. Now, I got some material out that barely made a difference. I'm going to go just a little bit more. It's not rocket science, doesn't have to be perfect, but if it's too high, the ball, the BB that you put on the end of this spring will be pushed into the adjoining section with too much force, and it can prematurely wear out the print. Okay, I know it doesn't look like that made much of a difference, but trust me, it's much better. Then I'll take a BB, and you're looking to drop it right on top of that spring. And I don't want to tilt it, but you can see it's on the spring. Take the part that you fitted to it Make sure your arches are facing each other, straighten it out, and what you're going to do is you're going to capture the BB in that socket on the top of this piece, and you're literally just going to, kind of missed the mark there. You want to capture it with that pocket and then just squeeze them together until the BB is sunk down into that hole. Then you'll grab your roll pin, and this is where I realize I forgot a hammer. So I'll try to do it with these pliers. And it's working rather unsuccessfully. So I'm going to stop and go get a hammer. All right, I'm back with a hammer. Don't need a big one, a little project hammer. Perfect. I will drive that right home through the two pieces. No issues. Then you can test the operation. You'll get a slight click when the ball captures in the pocket. And what you're looking for is it to be at least straight. It might be a little bit over straight to an obtuse angle, but that's okay. At the very least, you want it to be straight. So when you push it through the window opening, it'll hold the window open. When it's bent, it should be slightly more than 90 degrees acute. And that allows you to compensate for any misalignments in the pockets on the window that actually holds the arm in place. Now, after I complete that sub-assembly, I'll go through and just kind of lightly file the joint pieces to make sure everything is smooth and feels nice in the hands. Now, if you don't have that gap there, you won't be able to operate this or get it to sit straight. It'll interfere with each other, and you'll get a piece that won't want to close all the way, so rather open all the way, or it'll jam somewhere in here. So you need a little bit of a gap there. The top of the arch here is where you're looking for the interference fit to stop it from over opening. Okay. So as you work it and as you use it, you'll develop a little wear item trough here where the BB's riding. And if you have the spring too tall in that pocket, the amount of pressure applied to this plastic piece here will allow it to prematurely wear, and you'll have to print another one. So I found halfway is about right. Okay, so once you have that assembled, it's time to do the next one. Again, you take your next piece. I like to assemble it in order as I'm working, so that way I know which pieces were fitted to each other. Look for the gap, look for hole alignment, and then fit at the top of the arch. So this piece needs a little bit of filing because it's not enough of a gap for me. Nothing crazy, just we're looking to smooth it out and make it clean. Hole looks aligned to me. There's a nice gap. File out the arch a little bit more. Just inspecting. Bit of a greebly on the end here. Okay, I may have overfiled that just slightly, but at the end of the day, it won't affect functionality. You just need to have a little bit of a gap there. Okay, I'm just using my file as a place to hammer on. So again, get your spring. Careful, they have a tendency to fly out on you. Same with the BBs. I recommend getting more than you need. Fit it down into the hole, compress it a few times. That's a little higher than I'd like, so I'm going to do a little bit of drilling. Now, it goes without saying, you want this spring to fit into this pocket with a slip fit. So I am using a number 10 drill bit. Okay, that's about right. Hopefully you can see that. Get your BB, cover the pocket, drop the BB onto the spring. Sometimes you'll miss like I did just there. Then once you get it, it'll kind of rest in place. Make sure your arches are facing each other. Capture the BB, press down, hold it together. I'm pinching it quite tightly to keep the spring and BB from launching the other end across the room. Get your roll pin, hammer it down. It's exactly the right width, these roll pins, to fit nicely, so you give it a good whack at the last second to seat it home. Check your operation, look for straightness. If it goes straight, or if it can at least go straight, you're good. Clean off any greeblies you don't like. Just get your hands all over it and just make sure that it feels smooth. Again, not too worried about the looks. If you want, you can paint it. Look up paint that will work on PETG. But I found I don't particularly care about that. Yeah, that's a little bit too sanded, but it doesn't affect the functional nature of the part or strength of it. It just looks a little wonky. Can I get a good shot of that? Yeah, just a little too much there. Okay. Final piece, there is no ball or spring. It's just fit and a roll pin. So again, look for parts, look for greeblies, refine your fit. Get any dangling stuff off, anything that can interfere with the function of the part. Check for fit. Again, what's critical is the hole alignment. Once you're confident the hole's going to fit, get your last roll pin. You can kind of get in there with a bit with spring pressure or finger pressure and then drive it home. Now, I didn't file out the arch, and that was intentional. It may not come up real great on the screen, but you'll see this won't, it's not sitting straight. It's just slightly, I'm exaggerating it, but it's just slightly like that. If that happens after you've assembled it, what you can do is you can come in with a fine file like this, and you can file out a bit of the arch. You can also take a file like this and just slightly on its edge file off the top of the tongue at the outside edge. And that will allow that to sit closer up in the groove. And I'm now pretty happy with that. So I'm going to file off the ends just to get rid of any greeblies, make it feel a little bit nicer. And that's pretty much it. The last piece now, and again, I've forgotten yet another tool. You'll need a screwdriver, is to fit the 1024 stainless steel screw in here. Now, I printed the hole in the design deep enough where this comes real close to bottoming out. It's not threaded, so you are threading it as you drive these screws in. Now, what I would recommend, and I don't have it here, is one of the original screws. The original screw for this is just slightly shorter, and it has a self-tapping groove on it. If you have one of those, it makes it a lot easier to thread this end out using the original screw. So I'll usually have the original screw available, and I'll screw it all the way down, run it all the way in, run it all the way out, and then stick one of these new screws in and run it all the way down. And that's essentially it. Once you get it in, it'll look like this. And this is another one I made with the orange end for the escape windows. You can print the last piece separately as an orange part for your escape windows, and then all black for every other window. Now, when you go to install this on the bus, this nub that sticks up fits inside the hole on the window. It is a very tight fit. In fact, I wouldn't think you can get that into the hole with just hand and finger pressure. What I've found is to center it as best you can, run the screw in, and tighten the screw all the way down until it fits, until it bottoms out again. That will help pull this piece up into that hole in the awning window. Then I'll back it off 1 or 2 turns so that when I rotate the arm, it rotates, I don't want to say freely, but with a slight drag in the mounting position on the window. So it feels like you have a nice adjustment or the ability to rotate it and it'll stay where you left it. So that's basically it. That's how I post-assemble one of these. If you're able to get access to a 3D printer, go ahead and print them out, give it a shot. And if not, we'll talk later. Thanks. Bye.